Good morning.
Morning.
Right. Well, we're going to go ahead and dive in. I know that we should have some other folks jumping in, and yet we always want to start on time and end on time. So let me check on one piece. For your, hey, Jesse. So Sylvia, hey, something that I am going to ask you guys to have open for today's call is the from your hub, your vision, your reality, right? That very first page that has the seven, not seven circles, but physical health, right? The things from seven circles. If you'll have that in front of you, we're going to ask some questions around that piece today. If you want to go ahead and pull that up at the very beginning of the call, that'd be great. All right. Now, something that we had asked from last week was, as we're reading this book, and many of us have already finished it, and now we're going back through and studying and going, okay, how do we utilize this and input this into our daily work? Something that I'd asked everybody to do is go ahead and work through your vision if you hadn't already. So I would just ask y'all to look at that again. So if we don't have, right, this is the vision for these seven circles. That's where we want to start. Something that as I'm going through and I'm looking at it, if we're not careful, what we can do is we can put that as the strategy. And we really want to think, when we think vision, we want to think, what do I actually want? Not the strategy that gets me somewhere. Think about what you want. So when we look at physical health, I want to be somebody that works out every day. Why? Like, what is that giving you? Okay, that's, maybe it's my vision is that I am a person of that I'm in great shape, that I'm able to do what, my body never tells me I can't do something because it's been so sedentary, right? Like, we want to make sure that it's not about the strategies, it's what do you actually want out of that vision, right? So be thinking vision long term when we're doing those pieces, and we're going to come back to that in a bit. And yet we're going to go ahead and dive in, and
Yes, sir. I can get you.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and dive in. So again, if you'll have that 12-week in your hub, if you have that pulled up for your action plan, because we're going to look at some of those pieces today. All right. So write this down. Do you have your vision, your plan, and your tactics? That's what when we look at the 12-hour work week, vision, plan, and tactics, right? Thomas Edison once said, if we did the things we're capable of doing, we would literally astound ourselves. Now, this may be true, and yet why is it that so many of us fall somewhat short, not only of astounding ourselves, of astounding anyone at all? It's the overwhelming majority of human beings never live up to their full potential. We don't even know what our full potential is, right? We have an opportunity. So what would your life look like if you performed at your very best every single day? Well, there's only one way to find out, and that is to do it, right? So the 12-week year is about abandoning that annual cycle and adopting a 12-week cycle, and how that can transform your productivity and success. So by planning and thinking in 12-week segments, you'll begin performing better and achieving more in less time. So this book is about developing a vision, making a plan, as well as how to keep yourself on track with systems and measure that progress. In the book, the author Brian and Michael share why annual planning breeds complacency, what Mike Tyson can teach us about delivering our goals, and why planning is so important. So I'd like to hear from you guys. You've read the book, you're reading the book. I'd actually asked last week for you guys to just come to the call with um, an aha or something that you're learning or something that you're implementing. Who'll share first? What's an aha that you've gotten from the book or something that you've started implementing already?
Staying on track with your goals.
Yeah.
Very easy, but super easy to not stay on track.
Yeah. Yeah. I love this. So we do have this, we think, sometimes we think easy versus hard. And I think sometimes it's simple, not easy, right? Because it's a skill level that we are learning that it doesn't necessarily come naturally. It's that moving from E to P that we're experiencing. And as I read this book, I keep going back to that entrepreneurial to purposeful. And when we think about E to P, for it to go from entrepreneurial to purposeful, we hit our head on a ceiling. It is uncomfortable. It is hard. And so looking at it and going, okay, what's we always think I need more focus or I need more accountability. Instead, if we look at it, okay, I want to focus. What is it that I want to focus on? My strategic options. So that's what they talk about in the book. What is the focus? That's the vision. And then we go, okay, what are my strategic options? What's the tactical steps that we're going to take? What are the systems and models that we can put in around that? And that leads us to holding those systems and models accountable. Because so often we think the accountability is with us. And yes, it is. Accountability of I get to say, I get to choose. And yet, if we build accountability around us, it makes it so much simpler. So if we have a challenge, getting out of bed early in the morning, well, maybe we set an appointment with somebody that we know that we won't not show up for them. Now that's an accountability structure we've put in in our world. So yes, simple. And yes, so easy not to do anything that is worth doing. It's easy not to do. So love that. Jesse or Hobie, what else? What would you share? An aha from your reading or something that you've implemented or you're implementing from the 12-hour work week?
Well, I'm trying to find my book where I took notes. I'm a little bit scatterbrained today. I was trying to make a call. I think you heard I was on a call. And so, yeah, really what I need to implement right now is I need to get back to the plan. I need to get back to the book and get figured out. I think I'm just coming off of last year where I was so busy, and it's just I'm having a little bit. This week's been a lot better. The first 2 weeks of the year were kind of like I just wasn't maybe ready. I wasn't like quite ready to start the year. So I think this week I finally I think I finally came to the realization that this year has started, and I'm seeing that it's a little bit slower start than last year was, and so for me it's just like getting back to it, and so I need to get the book back out, my notes back out, because I've read the book, I've taken notes on the book. I just need to get it back out and start implementing some of the concepts in the book.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been, we've been coaching on that. It's just been a little bit of a tough start for me this year.
Mm-hmm. Well, and so when we think of interesting thought around that being like the tough start, because you're definitely not alone in that. And we actually, a bunch of us coaches were talking about if you look at people that have had, and everybody on this call right now, y'all had your best year ever last year. Well, what happens whenever, right? Think about it. So we hit a new ceiling of, we bust through another ceiling. That's as much as we can celebrate, and that's exciting. Sometimes we might have to look back and go, what did I learn from that? What do I need to put into place? Because if you think about it, and you may, Hobie, I'll ask you this question, but when you think about not being ready for the year, you needing more time, as much as it sounds like just from the conversation I've had and bringing your son on, you want to hit a bigger number this year, and at the same time, if you think about this year or last year, are you ready for the grind to start again?
Yeah, and I think that might be holding me back a little bit, because I was just so busy last year, had so much running and whatever. It's like once that starts again, it's not gonna probably end until November, December. So yeah, I mean that's a good point. But I'm there as of this week. I'm there. We got our plan together yesterday. Like I got my call plan together for the quarter. I actually got all my contacts made for this week. And we got some couple systems set up. And so yeah, we're there. We're there. It just took me a couple weeks to get there.
Well, and so this is and again, you're not alone with that thought process. And this is one of the pieces, and I'm actually show you my screen, and I want to demonstrate something because we definitely want to go back, pull up the book and go, okay, how do we implement these things? And so Hobie, this is your hub. Only because if I look at this, I want us to think about the 12-week year. So it is, when we think about between now and December, that's such a long way off. If we came back and we went, wait a minute, we had said, so I could actually change these dates, but I think 2 weeks ago, we had said our 12-week year was going to start on February the 11th. So if we looked at that and we said, made these adjustments. So we're already into week on this Sunday, week 2 of our 12 weeks will be done. And so something that I'm going to have, because I'm not sure why it didn't auto-populate, so I'm going to have mine work or fix this for everybody so that we have our dates all the way through. The last week of our 12-week year is going to be April the 6th. That way, instead of going, I have all this time for the year, it's no, what am I going to accomplish between now and April the 6th? Because there's a couple of things that I want us to be really cognizant of is thinking about what do we need to implement, or where do we need to put time, manufacture and put time in, so that we go, you know what, I've got to take time off now, or that means I'm going to take a month off later, right? Or you might go, hey, I'm okay with that, whatever that looks like for you. But right now, that's where we want to be looking at. So when on Monday, when all of us are creating what are our tactical steps, Monday, we're going to be in week 3. Most of us anyways, I'm looking at my dates. So on 125 to 131, right, we are going to be in week 3 of our 12 weeks. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more today as well, but that's the piece. And so don't go back and try to start at the beginning. We want to start it right from where we are. That way we'll get through one cycle and then we'll go again, right? So let's just focus on these between now and April the 6th. Okay, so
Coach,
now, yes, ma'am.
you want us to fill out every single week on Sunday, right?
Yeah, and so we're gonna talk a little bit about that, but everybody's a little different. Interesting enough, Gary talks about doing it. He likes to do his on Sunday, takes some times and prepares for the week. in the 12-week year, Brian talks about doing this on Monday morning. I'm going to suggest find the piece that works for you. I like to do mine on Friday, and I'm planning next week. I'm going to say there's probably not a right or wrong. The biggest challenge that I see if we're not careful is if we start on Monday planning it, if our phone's ringing and this thing, we're already jumping in, almost feeling like we're behind. And so we skip the planning piece, right? And yet, yeah, so it's really up to just play with that and find the time that works for you. And again, keep in mind, and we're going to look at this, but we want to make sure, and this goes back to whether you do it as a GPS, or you do it as a, as these are all the action steps that I need to take between now and the end of the 12 weeks to win at this goal. We've got a lot of things that need to happen this week. Like, that's just life, right? We want to make sure, what is the focus? What is the priority? What is the thing that's actually going to move me closer? As long as I get these pieces done, this is the main thing that I want. That's what, as long as I get these pieces done, I'm going to move forward. So we're going to dig a little bit deeper. So yes, Sylvia, to answer your question, Sunday, Monday, Friday, but you want to plan the entire week focused on what is my top priorities or strategies. One of the things that I'm going to highly recommend is that priority 3 is personal commitments. And the reason is we tend to, if we're not careful, especially when we're highly productive, when we're highly driven, we take care of all the stuff in the business. But if we're not taking care of our health, if we're not taking care of things that give us joy, we don't even realize how much that ends up slowing our business down because we're just mentally exhausted, right? So priority 3 might be, what are my personal commitments? Okay. So I'm going to stop the share for a bit. So, and did we lose Jesse? No, we've got, so Jesse or Andy, hey, anything you would add about what you've picked up from the book so far? Any of your notes or ahas?
So I'm just enjoying, like, on a daily basis in terms of schedule and the planning, having 3 priorities that I know. So it's like, it makes planning each day, because I'll do the planning like Sunday or Monday, and I definitely like it earlier than Monday. And then every day I always plan the details of the following day the night before. And it's just easy to be like, okay, this is priority 1, this is priority 2, this is priority 3, and this is what I've got to do tomorrow. Because before, and we've worked on this a lot last year, before it was just like I was trying to do everything and nothing was getting done to satisfy myself. My only concern is, since I'm getting ready for this bodybuilding competition, knowing what the grind was like last year, I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to be able to do this when the grind gets intense again?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and I just stay in the present moment, and I am able to do it now. So that's,
well, yeah. Well, stay in the present and then be thinking of, right? Because I think that it's there's some power in knowing that, okay, this summer, right? Like, when you're in Idaho, when it's not snowing as much, right? Like, I'm going to need more time to do this. So how do I make this piece work, right?
right.
Yeah. So because there's some things that you can be thinking about and going, okay, these are some. Fascinated with it, I guess is what I would say. Stay fascinated with it.
And that's the tactical piece where it's like, okay, am I showing assistance? I just feel hesitant to give up that time with buyers, to be honest. And so I don't, so.
Well, yeah, so I love that you share that, because this is, and you might write this down, maybe all of us do. The thing that we're resisting a lot of time, not always. A lot of time it's the thing that could hold us back. So if we think about why we're not doing something, like, okay, I'm not going to hire a showing agent. And you go, what? I'm resisting giving up those time with buyers. Then you go, wait, what am I resisting? Is it because I think there's going to be a lack of
Connection.
money? Do I think there's going to be a lack of connection? And then you get, when you identify, when you go back to the root, what you're resisting, then you can go, wait a minute, other people do. I mean, this is an example. Other people do that. Let me go have conversations on how they do it, find out, stay fascinated. Because once you answer that root cause, it makes everything else easier because you're not resisting that piece, or you might discover, hey, that's not the direction that I want to go. But what are we, what is it that we're resisting? It's not, it's not having, we're not, definitely not resisting having more time. We're resisting, I don't know how to do this and not lose a connection with a client.
Mm-hmm.
So identify, work that way backwards. Yeah. Love that. Okay. Andi, what would you add?
Well, I'm going to add that old habits are hard to break. And for me, trying to make sure that I'm following my schedule, that I'm getting it down in my book. I'm the person who wakes up in the middle of the night and says, oh my God, I forgot to add this. And if I don't have my book right there with me, I'm putting it on my phone so I remember, and then I have to merge everything. But what I'm realizing is that I do need the schedule, and it's just because I've never really kept a schedule like that. So I do need the discipline. I skipped a couple of things and had to make sure I put them in the next day, things like that. And it just, if I can just insert myself on a daily basis and make it happen, I can see that it will work and it will benefit me, because then it gives me my free time and that time, that personal time that you told me that I need to plan for.
Yeah. Yes.
Mhm.
Love it. Yeah, it is. And again, it's something I think sometimes if we're not careful, we beat ourselves up because we're not this master at our schedule or a master at this. We're not supposed to be. It is a skill. Gary talks about the difference between an agent. He said once an agent's made over, and don't quote me on this, I want to say 100,000 or 150,000, something like that. And I don't remember the exact number, but he said the only difference between them and an agent that is netting $1 million is mastering their priorities or their schedule and hiring. That's the only difference. So, that the cool part is if we look in the future and we go, well, if that may not be what you want, but if you want to, by doing this, we're already standing in that future just by mastering our schedule, who we're saying yes to, when we say yes, how often we're saying no, because that's a big one as well. Okay. Okay. So when we look at the 12-week year, right, the key idea number one is we're held back from achieving our potential, not by a lack of ideas. It is by a lack of consistent execution. We're all familiar with knowledge is power. This kernel of wisdom is a bit misleading, though, because in and of itself, knowledge bestows no particular power on its possessor. Rather, the power comes from what one does with one's knowledge. We all know that person that knows everything and doesn't do anything. I have an aunt that could tell you, and she was my favorite aunt, and she could tell you everything about how to work out. She watched workout videos. She did not do anything. She did not stand up and do them, right? So there's a whole, right? It's just interesting, right? It's not just about the knowledge. It's, are we implementing? And that's why it's not, I don't want to just read this book. Are we implementing what we're learning? So, when we think of roughly 65% of Americans are either overweight or obese, it's not a lack of knowledge. There are around 46,000 diet books available. The diet and fitness industry is worth $60 billion a year. Everyone knows deep down that they need to eat a little better and move a little more. They just don't act on that knowledge. And I would say it's not even as simple as that. And I think, Jesse could probably, he's training for a a body fitness, he's going to say it's not as simple as that, but that's going to be where it starts. Hobie, you've run a marathon, right? Like what we're eating is so important to that. It also is super important. I was thinking about this the other day, and I'm going to suggest that you all do this. And this is, we always think about like before, what does the doctors tell us before entering a new health regimen or something like that? Go to the doctor and make sure you could. When was the last time you had, and I say you, all of us have went to the doctor and had blood work done? Sometimes we don't do that. So and I'll use me as an example, but I was experiencing fatigue and I couldn't figure out what it was. And so I start, so I had all my blood panels run and I'm all this stuff because sometimes we think it's just this, but you go, wait a minute, is there something I don't know? So are we staying fascinated with things? A few years ago, I was 2013, something like that. I was diagnosed with ADHD, which is hilarious because I had no idea. And I was actually diagnosed with something else first, wrongly. And it made a huge difference in my world, from everything from thought I had a problem with depression. I thought I had this midday slump thing. There's all these things. And then you discover, I also wear glasses. It would have been like me trying to just power through not being able to see. Wait a minute. And so I say that to say, like, this is the beginning of the year. Have you, that might be something that you want to look at is all of us. When was the last time we had blood work done? Because sometimes we're worn out and we can't figure out how to get out of that. It's because maybe we're just missing B12, right? And we take some B12 and we're good to go. So are we being very conscious of that? Is it, if we're struggling, let's look at what are we eating? Is it the thing that's going to give us the most energy? What about the exercise? Are we getting at least 30 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day of some type of movement, right? Those things are going to play a part in this. So I'll get off my soapbox about that. You need a great idea to succeed in business, and yet its execution is what makes the difference. Ideas are only rewarded if they're deftly executed in the market. Apple's a success because they took a series of great ideas and executed them with incredible skill. Achieving your true potential isn't about dreaming big, it's about executing ably. Evidence shows that consistent application of best practices will improve results significantly. Okay. So for most of us, it's not about executing a new approach. It's about applying what we already know more effectively. And the 12-week year approach can help you execute better. Focus on what's important, manage your time better, measure your results, and achieve more faster. So we think about thinking on an annual basis, because even though we're reading this book, we're all programmed, myself included, we always think the year, right? And yet thinking on an annual basis is a way to guarantee complacency and poor results. We kind of looked at this at the beginning of the call, right? Because when we think annually, we set New Year's resolutions, we celebrate anniversaries, our business, right? How did we do last year? And we have these yearly targets and goals. We tend to judge our achievements on that annual basis. And yet the book says, what if that annualized thinking is a trap? Annual planning processes aren't only counterproductive and hard to plan for, they also breed complacency. Think about it right now that we're at the third week of January. December feels like a really long way off. In the first months of the year, it's easy to think, okay, well, I'm not quite on track to hit my targets. There's plenty of time to catch up. So if we don't feel any urgency, we're unlikely to act with urgency, right? It's common in business to have that end of the year push to meet targets. I think sometimes that's why we're so tired at the beginning of the year, because we push so hard those last few weeks to what can we do? What can we do? And that we're just all out, right? top performers recognize the shorter planning periods being greater urgency and focus. High performing athletes, they were some of the first ones to embrace this. They call it periodization. I'm probably butchering the way that word is, period and then ization. It's a technique that isolates one skill that needs developing and then perfects it in a short amount of time before moving on to the next skill. That same approach works in business and for any goals in life. So always think, what is the impact of the 12-week planning cycle? So if you think about that end of the year surge in performance and productivity, well, now you get to think that way all the time. Now, the other cool part is a 12-week period. It's long enough to enable you to achieve something meaningful while sufficiently shortening that so that you can't be complacent about the deadline. The other cool part is if you think about how many weeks there are in the year, if there's 52 weeks in the year, divide that by 12. What do we get? You're going to get an odd number, right?
4.33333.
333, right? So the cool part is with the 12-week year, we're only talking about working 48 weeks. So that means every 12 weeks, we have a 13th week that we can either take a vacation because we've hit goal. Or if we had a vacation in there, then that 13th week becomes, okay, that's my last week of the 12 weeks, right? So we're building in downtime. We're building in, I've got an opportunity to play catch up, right? All right. So now we looked at, and I really hope, and if not, I cannot stress enough, please write it down, circle it. And we are going to look at this, but have you developed your vision? That is the first step toward improved productivity. We are not looking, our intent isn't to do everything. Our intent is to do, right? That's impossible. What is the vision? And then what is the first step? So if we lined our dominoes up, what's the first domino that we need to knock down that hits the next domino, right? All the way up to like the one thing talks about with knocking down the Eiffel Tower. So we want to develop a vision. So think of humanity's greatest achievements: printing press, internet, modern medicine, space travel, smartphones. Each of these creations began as a vision. It was vague and fantastic dream that people and organizations thought up and then worked hard to make happen. Vision inspires action, progress, and results. So what is your vision for your business? Because a lot of times we go to the goal. Well, our goal is to do this many units. Why? What's that going to give you? And that's why I go back to, we look at those 7 circles of your life. What is that you want? Because interesting enough, maybe you hit every financial goal that you have. And what you didn't realize was that maybe because of programming from when we were a child, enough is never enough. And I don't mean that in any negative way, but what I mean by that is we might still have that gaping hole where we feel like we're not good enough, or right. So like, and then we're also, if we're not looking at the vision, are we actually enjoying our life? Do we feel joy, excitement, happiness? We want all that underneath the umbrella of being able to take care of our family and ourselves and all that. And yet, what is that for us? So how do you go about developing a vision? Your vision should be ambitious and realistic, and it should take into account 2 time frames. So first, take a step back from the daily grind and consider your long-term dreams, both personal and professional. So write that down if you haven't already, because this is straight out of the book, right? What is your long-term dreams, both personal and professional? Write down what you think will matter in 10 years' time. write down by that word 10 years, how old, what will your age be at 10 years, in 10 years? How old, if you have kids, how old will your kids be in 10 years? Will they have kids at that point? How much money do you want in the bank? How much time with your kids? Where do you want your business to be? Right? All of those things down, and you'll continue to come up with more. That's going to help you build that vision for your life. Then you start getting more specific, and that's those, like what we pulled up on that vision piece. Okay, where am I at right now today? And that's, we're just taking a temperature. There's no negative or there's nothing wrong with where we are. But if I were to take a temperature, where would I say I was today in my personal relationships, in my spiritual world, in my, right, all of those things. That way, then when we're working toward that long-term view, what do you want to achieve in the next 3 years? Write down in detail what an ideal life looks like 3 years from now. That should give you a clear view of where you want to go. And that way, then you start looking at it and go, well, if that's what I want in 3 years, what do I need to do in the next 12 weeks? That's going to lead me, right? Because that 12-week plan rooted in your vision increases the chances of you actually reaching your goal, right? Because it can be easy, because this is, and I'm probably right there with some of you, more so probably in the past than now. It can be so easy to think, I know what I need to do. I don't need to take time writing out a silly plan. But plans help us stay on track. Many people know they need to exercise more and eat less, but without a firm plan to take a pre-work jog and count every meal's calories, they fail. Knowing isn't a substitute for planning. That 12-week plan helps you proactively manage your time and focus on important activities. It helps you to say, no, that's not the best use of my time right now. Yes, this is. With no plan at all, your daily actions are driven by input triggers. Some of us have read The Atomic Habit, right? An email arrives, you answer it. The doorbell rings, you get up. It's hard to focus on high impact activities like our sales generation or writing up an offer or a proposal, not seriously an offer, because you're not making proactive choices about your time. You're simply responding to what's right in front of you. So any plan will keep you focused, and a 12-week plan will do an especially good job, right? Because annual plans are inherently hard to follow. I think a lot of us learned that because of COVID this year, right? Like, nope, you know what I mean? Like that happened and we were like, and we had to go back and go, okay, what are we going to make adjustments for? What do we, instead, right? Because we were trying to predict something that was not predictable. Okay. So when we think about creating your 12-week plan, do your vision, choose your goals, and then make it what will put me on that path. So let's talk about some of your visions, some of the things that you wrote down today, some of the things that you wrote down. It could be some of the things that you wrote down on that, that piece that I had you guys pull up earlier when we looked at the 7, I call them the 7 circles, right? So who wants to go first? What's something you wrote down that is one of your visions, or that is your vision?
Well, part of I guess I'll go first. I have 11:30 phone call. I mean, my vision has always been around like business entrepreneur, investor, and then of course something with music and the health and fitness stuff. So, so you're wanting me to talk about that? I guess what's the question again?
Yeah. So like, what is your vision?
So, like last year, I wrote out a 10-year plan. My vision is to be living off of passive income from multiple streams of income.
Okay.
Some of that rental property, this real estate sales business,
And for right now, so those are the
profit
strategies.
share.
Those are the
Mhm.
strategies, and that's great. But right, yeah, let's stay with the vision. So your vision is like, whatever amount it takes. This is what I'm hearing. I just want to make sure, like, whatever amount it would take for you to fund your lifestyle, that's actually paid for by passive income.
Okay.
I mean, is that what you're saying? One of your visions?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I can spend more time like creating music and bodybuilding, that kind of stuff, where I don't work in the business as much as I work on it.
So, and those are and those are still, because this is the interesting thing about strategies is sometimes strategies, they're good. We want them. Absolutely. And when we talk about the vision, if we just focus on the vision, the strategies show up, right? So you have a vision to spend time in music, right? And then you could get even more specific on what does that mean for you? Are you gonna is there a particular place that you want to sing or play or have a hit one day? Like, what is that, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so perfect. So thank you, Jesse, for going first and diving into that. So that's a vision. All right. Who else? Somebody share what is a vision that they have.
I do have, happy to go now. I do have a vision, more or less like this, is to really create a certain amount of money every month via passive income, so I can really spend time doing what I really love to do, which is, my passion for sport and to travel. And but also a vision that I have in there is to own my big team, my big group of KW, right? My agency. Is this something that it can happen in less than 10 years? Maybe, but I put it. Okay, I put it on a 10. It's right here. And can I read something that it was on my yesterday's quote? Action will remove the doubts that theory cannot solve. So that was yesterday. So yeah, absolutely. That's kind of one of my visions, and I'm working towards that.
Perfect. Love it. Yeah. Because that's the cool part when you have the vision of what you want. It's so, I remember, so most of us have been to Bold, probably more than once, but and Hobie, you'll have, at least you, I think you've had John Prescott as one of your Bold coaches before. I remember it was 2009. He was my first experience with Bold, and my brother had been telling me that you can have anything you want, and real estate's just a vehicle. And I was like that was not, I was 22, 23. I was not getting that. I did not know what I wanted to be when I grew up, but I was not sure it was this real estate thing. And then I was in my first Bold with John Prescott, and I got it. And I went, I want to be able to communicate like him. Now, since then, I know that there's still a lot of things that I'm looking to grow more and do, but it was that vision of being that great communicator, and I have leaps and bounds to continue to go in that, but that opened up a whole nother path of, okay, what do I need to read, do, learn, know to do that, right? So that's the cool part about the vision, is who you become along the way. All right, who else? Hobie, Andy, you want to share what's your vision? I love the quote, Sylvia. That's great.
I guess I think mine, and I'm older than everybody, so I'm finally getting there. Because I'm 56, so I figure I want to be done in 10 years, and I'm just now starting to embrace that. And so that's why I really need to maximize my income for the next 10 years and to make up for lost time. And so my vision would be that I'm done with real estate in 10 years and I hand it off to, if my son just started, so if he stays in the business, or somebody else. And I'd like to just be living off of retirement and rental properties. So I'm making up for lost time with rental properties. I'll be closing on my second one at the end of next week. And my goal would be to have 10 vacation rentals in the next 10 years. And be done, and then just enjoy my kids and potentially grandkids. So that's, I mean, it's a simple vision, but that's me.
Yeah. Well, and that's the cool part about vision. It's ours, right? There's no wrong or right. It's ours. One thing that I would only encourage you is paint that picture a little bit more of what it looks like when you are not doing real estate anymore. Like what excites you about that, spending time with kids, spending time with, so that vision is so clear that doing what you need to do in the day to set yourself up, that vision pulls you through all of those maybe uncomfortable pieces or the things that we'd really rather not do. And if we're only thinking of the now, right? So paint what that looks like. I love, Mo Anderson, she pays for, and my understanding, like she pays for the entire family to go on this big cruise together or something like that once a year. And then she does one for, I think, maybe her girlfriends and things like that. So what will you do with that time you have? It's yours. So if it's, I want to putt in a garden or walk around the neighborhood, that's fine. But what's that vision of once you have that? Because again, that's still, if we're not careful, we're just talking about the strategic, but what is it that we want to have what's that next piece?
Golfing every day, driving around in the convertible. I'll be happy.
Okay. Golfing every day, driving around in a convertible. Love it. Okay. Perfect. All right. And then, okay, awesome. And then Andy, what about you? What's yours?
So we have a house in Rockport, Massachusetts. I live in New Jersey now, but my eventual goal is to have an office in Rockport, a KW office in Rockport, Massachusetts, and something that I can set and forget and let the other people run it and I can check in. But I'm not the type of person, I'll be 70 in 10 years. So I'm not the type of person that can stop working. I will want to continue to work and continue to do things. So, and what that would afford me is the time to travel. And I would love to just do things like rent a villa for a month with my whole family and travel with my sister and her kids and my kids and everybody and friends that are like family. So those would be my goals for 10 years.
Perfect. And I love that. And for everybody, I would say, as you continue to write those down and continue to think about them, back them. And the cool part is when we think 12 weeks. So what can I do in the next 12 weeks to get me on path to do that? It might be, yes, there might be some like, okay, me learning this or me having this closing and putting $1 into a fund for travel. That's where it starts making it real, right? All right, awesome. Mon, I'm going to ask you, because last week I said that I wanted you to introduce yourself to everybody. I think mostly everybody knows you, but I'd love for you to introduce yourself really quickly. And then what's your vision?
Okay. I think most already know me. I'm Ramon. You guys can just call me Mon, the last 3 letters of my name. Been working with Coach Olivia since last year as her cyberbacker or virtual assistant. If in case you guys will be needing any assistance with, the technicalities with your coaching hub, Excel, command, just feel free to email us and I will for sure reply immediately. The vision, I will be working with Coach Olivia with that because on a weekly basis, we get to have, our meeting. Well, not really, not really like, oh, is that again?
Oh, I was saying, no, I have not been doing a great job at that.
Well, you are, because, on a daily basis, we get to talk. And for me, that's already enough. I get the direction, the clarification for the task that I'm doing. It doesn't really, for me, we do have schedule, yes. But, that everyday conversation, even if it's just for 2 or 5 minutes, is already working for me.
And for you, for your vision for your world, because I know like when we first started working together, you already had like several other businesses going, right? Like from the water pieces to all that. What's your vision, or what's your vision for your future?
Yes, I do have a business, and it's still running. It's about water, purified water. Like we're the one who's producing purified water in our area. And right now it's going well. Maybe what I can just say about my vision on that is, I'd like it to continue as it is, and I'd like it to be much more of an autopilot business, wherein I'm not doing anything. I'm doing my job here, and that business is running on its own, because I do have people who's working there for me. Um, I think I'll think more of the vision which is related to that business, and with your help, for sure, we can construct it in a way wherein it will be great.
Yeah, perfect, awesome. Yeah, because I think that's where we think about the vision, and Mon recently he's got I think I'm gonna mess up the ages, a 12-year-old and maybe is he 2 months, 3 months now?
Yes, that's right.
So when you think about, the vision for them, for you in the future, right? Like all of us, that when we can have that vision, the house shows up, but we want to start there, really painting that big vision. I'll share. So so being the first realtor that gets a shoe deal from a major shoe company, that's one of my visions. It's like dumb. I have no idea. I heard, so Kevin Hart was the first comedian that had it, and I thought, a Nike deal. And I thought, why not? Right? Like I'm running these things. I want to run some ultras. Hey. And I don't know what that will come up, but that was just one of those that hit me. 10,000 a month in passive income, and physically fit when I'm 90. So this whole change in my behavior came about because I didn't want to be that older person that is, can't do stuff. I also, with the passive income, is we've all, when I was in 18, 19, 20, going to college, I worked at Walmart overnight, and you had those people that were the greeters that they weren't there because they wanted to be. They, were 70 years old, and they had to, and I was like, well, how do we make sure that I'm not that person, right? Because not does it make them bad or anything. It just goes, I don't want to have to be 70 greeting people just because otherwise I'm going to eat cat food, right? So kind of what does that, so I love like really paying attention to what is our vision. So you've started a little bit on the vision. Go through those 7, if you haven't already, again, go through those 7 circles. Where are you at today? Where do you want to be at? Because once you get the vision, second, you're going to write specific measurable tasks that, if completed, will lead you to your goal. So, they could be contact 10 prospects a week, create a sales tracker, focus on the small number of critical activities that will move you towards your goal, and don't overthink it. I love the quote by General George Patton that said, "A good plan today is better than a perfect plan tomorrow." So when you identify that vision and you say, okay, this is where I want to be, and then you back it up and, okay, what's the key setup in the next 12 weeks that will help me get there? Write it down. So, okay, it's about getting this many listings. What do I have to do to get this many listings? And you're going to say, these are the steps. Write them all. Get very, very tactical about the steps. And then beside the steps, write, is this a daily thing? Is this a weekly thing? Or is this a one-time thing? So by when? That's those, when you take all the tactical steps and you write every tactical step for that goal. Let's say that yours came down to, this is the number of listings I need to take in the next 12 weeks. because that's my lead domino. What are all the tactical steps that are going to help you get there? Again, are they daily, weekly, or if they're one-off? Then you're going to go right back into your calendar, right? Sylvia, you asked this question earlier, and you're going to look at all those tactical steps. You're going to say, in what was your first goal? You might have 3 goals. You might have 1 goal. That's okay. Whatever that is, if you, let's say that again, we're using this example. Let's say that it's listings and you've got all of those strategic strategies. And if it says, I need to do this, this week I need to make 10 contacts. I'm making this up, right? Whatever yours is, 10 contacts for sub owners. Okay. Then if that's a weekly thing, it goes into your weekly list. If it's, let's say you need to do a one-time thing of reviewing and choosing the scripts. Again, well, then it would go into this week and not necessarily into next week. So that's going to have your vision, and then focus on the things in the week. Make a list of all those tactics, and then those are the things that go into here. What do we need to do this week to move us forward, right? That's going to be the biggest piece. And we didn't get as far as I would have liked today when we look at the lead and lag measure. So we'll be talking about that next week, and that'll be the last week that we're having this call around the one thing, unless you guys say, hey, no, we now want to meet weekly and look at these pieces, right? Like what we're implementing. But one of the things that I want to say about this is make sure that these are lead measures. So a lead measure is what I can control today. Today, I can control how many people I talk to. I can control, right? Having a closing today, that actually happened last 3 months ago or 60 days ago, if that makes sense. Now, so make sure these are lead measures, not even like have an appointment. That is somewhat of a lead measure, but what is the steps that's going to get me that appointment? That's what we really want to get tactical here. So if I know if I make enough contacts, then I'm going to have the appointment, right? So what are those pieces that are going to lead us there? That's where we want the tactical steps. Okay. And so next week, we're really going to look at lead and lag measures. And what I would love is if some of you guys would, and I'll bring mine to the call as well. And yet I'd love to see yours. Make sure that you have your vision and reality done. From there, decide what is my 12-week goal. You might discover that it's 3 things, because we're going to make personal and vision that third one. I mean, by personal commitments is going to be the third one. You might say buyers and listings. You might say prioritizing my schedule. Whatever yours is, bring that to the call next week. It can be here on the GPS, or it can be handwritten out and you send a picture to me that says, this is my goal, take 10 listings, and these are all of the tactical steps that's going to get me there. And then we'll, and then have like, what are your action plans for the week? And I'll bring mine as well, right? So that we're going to look at this so that you can go, okay, I did that. Did I win the week? Was that a lead measure? That's the big piece that we want to be looking at. Okay. And again, there's a sample 12-week action plan here. So this person's goal was to take 8 listings. How are they going to do it? For them, these were their strategies, their tactical strategies. And as they did it, they marked done. Okay, so I know we're right at 11:30. I don't mind. Intent is to not keep you any longer. So I understand if you got to drop off. Let's take the last 2 minutes. Any questions about the assignment, how to do the assignment? And I'd love to hear an aha or two about something that you picked up today or reminded you, or you know that you're going to go back and review something in the book based about what we talked about. Who's going to go first?
So I kind of had an epiphany when Mon was talking, when you were talking to him about, and then at the end you were talking to him like how little his kids were. And so I started thinking to myself, it's like, dang, that was so long ago. And then I started thinking, you know, from my time from college to I retire is around 40 some years. I started thinking, you know, putting the 12-week year principle in that, it's like, so if I took every 10 years, I'm like on my last 12-week years of my work life, really. So I kind of feel like that kind of hit me like, I got to make up. I mean, this is my last 12 weeks of the work, total work time I have. So it's like, I got to really step it up this last 12 weeks, or which is the last 10 years. So it kind of hit me when you were talking about that. So it was kind of a really big epiphany for me.
No, that's really cool. Yeah. Finishing strong.
Yeah.
Right. Something to be really super proud of. Cause like I love that. So awesome. That might be something you want to write down and put up somewhere. Cause then when we have that aha, then we go, how do we keep that in front of us so that it changes our behavior? Right. Like we're really living into that. That's huge. Awesome for sharing that. All right. All right. Who else? Hobie, nobody wants to say anything because you just had an amazing one and everybody's scared now. Nobody, nothing? All right. Well, that is where we're going to wrap up. So you've got your action items, right? So we got complete this, rate yourself. Where are you today? What do you want your life to look like? And when it looks like that, how would you rate it? And then what's the priority? Okay. Does it mean that we're going to do something on every one of those this 12 weeks? But by putting on the priority, you might say, oh, wow, I didn't realize that actually is the lead domino that makes everything else easier or unnecessary. And then you're going to go through and you're going to create, again, you can do it on a GPS or you can literally just do it on a sheet of paper. You're going to say, okay, if that's my vision, what do I need to accomplish in the next 12 weeks so that I'm moving toward that vision? Write that down, whatever that goal is, and then write a list of all the strategic steps that's going to get there. Like write it in if you were going to hand it to a 12-year-old, they could then do it, right? Like I'm going to call so-and-so every day. I'm going to do this. I'm going to learn whatever that is, right? And then put a buy-when and a time frame on it, okay? Then based on that, you're going to go, okay, and you're going to do it week 3, you're going to go based on that because you can change your goal up here to whatever that goal was. And you're going to say, okay, based on that, what are the 3 to 5 things, right? When I listed, what are those things that I need to do this week from my strategic plan? And then that goes on your calendar and you start implementing. Okay. I know it seems like a lot of steps. It's really not as you start working through it. Okay. All right. That's where we'll wrap. Have an amazing, amazing week. If you guys need anything, call, reach out, text. I'll be here. All right. Bye.